It's a mammoth.
It's forever Tom Shires.
And I am still Mike Ireland.
And hey, we wouldn't have you any other way. And it's still, and I keep saying still, like, oh, it's still, but it's not. It's the best ever. It's the Shires and Ireland agenda, where we're all about movies and more.
That's right, and this is the bit where we go through what we're going to be talking about in the other bits later on in the show. Starting off with the week's big three stories from the world of film. Or film, if you prefer to say it that way.
My grandma did, apparently. She was big on the films, or the flickers. Magical Mike is laid bare in this week's quiz. May contain spoilers. Best of luck.
And we're also going to be looking at TV news in Goggletron. Your favourite robot from the future, my favourite robot from the future, who tells us what to watch on television.
All that and more now.
I just want to say one thing to my wife who's home. Your agenda, we did it!
You're listening to the Shires and Ireland agenda.
So it is time for the big three stories, the big three film news stories, and we're starting off with...
Well, I think it's important actually just say at this time that big is a relative term.
It is, particularly if one of you is a cat and one of you is a mouse.
Yeah, so some weeks things are huge, so it could be three huge stories, but we just say big whatever the week is. But you're right, one of these is certainly bigger than the other. Meow.
Because the Looney Tunes could be back in action. Do you see what I did there?
I did.
Were they Looney Tunes?
No, they weren't, were they? Looney Tunes is like Sylvester and
Tweety
Sweetie Pie.
Sweetie Pie.
I'm thinking Sweepy. That's Popeye's child, isn't it?
Is it? Okay. Well, Warner Brothers appear to be trying to bring back a Looney Tuniverse, if that's what Tom and Jerry will.
Brendan Fraser will be rubbing his hands.
He will. His robot hands. I
am so happy.
Tom and Jerry ready to play cat and mouse once more.
Now, do we know if they talk? Because I have a huge issue with talking Tom and Jerry.
Did Tom and Jerry kids Tom and Jerry talk?
They were too little, surely.
No, wasn't there a cartoon in the 90s?
I think there was, like Muppet Babies, and then you had Tom and Jerry Kids.
But I think the children could speak, but the parents couldn't.
Oh, okay. Like Rugrats?
Yeah, well, no, the parents could speak in Rugrats. They couldn't speak to one another.
Yes.
But I'm saying in...
Hairy Rugrats.
Like hairy Rugrats. Filmmaker Tim Story is apparently in talks to direct a live-action hybrid Tom and Jerry.
So kind of like the Garfield movies with...
I suppose so, yeah. For Warner Brothers Animation Group. But it's also understood that Chris Columbus is going to be working on, perhaps as a producer rather than as a director, a Scooby-Doo film, of course the last one being Monsters Unleashed back in 2004. Whatever happened to James Gunn? And at the same time, there is work on a live-action Jetsons film, big screen interpretations of the Flintstones, and Wacky Races.
What? It's happening.
You want to do Wacky Races?
I've been talking about live-action Wacky Races for as long as I can remember. I'm just glad they're finally listening.
Why is this happening? Not why are people listening to you? Thank you for listening to us.
I just think, and we're going to have this conversation time and time again when we look at Disney and their live-action remakes of their properties, the fact is you have a multi-generational product.
Yeah.
So grandparents, great-grandparents, parents, children, I assume, and I am assuming, go through Flintstones, Jetsons, Tom and Jerry, Wacky Races. Is that still the case? Is it still a thing?
Now, my dad has been showing my nephews Tom and Jerry for a while now, and...
Is that because your dad's a bit old?
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Love you, Papa Island.
Is it a thing that the grandparents like it and maybe try and get the grandchildren into it, but to be honest, the grandchildren wouldn't be that taken with it of their own accord?
Maybe. Do you know the channels, don't you? Does Boomerang still exist, do we know?
It does still exist. I'm not sure what the number is. I think it's around 200 children's channels.
All right. Is it a Freeview Boomerang as well?
I think Boomerang might be. Pop certainly is.
Because there was a time when you had Cartoon Network, that's where you would have found your classics. Then Boomerang became the kind of rerun style channel that had all those Hanna-Barbera things on there.
Because I can always remember newspaper stories, I'm guessing about 10 years ago, something like that, about the fact that Tom and Jerry weren't being shown on terrestrial television.
Is Sesame Street still on?
Not on terrestrial, no. I think that's on one of the channel you've got to pay for.
All right. Thirchester Hotel's on, though,
Yes,
isn't
it is. But it was because Tom and Jerry were taken off. They were taken off because it was seen as too violent.
Wow.
Now, is that something that the makers of the new live-action hybrid films would have to bear in mind, that if you're playing true to the tradition of Tom and Jerry, the cat is trying to eat the mouse. There is no way around that. But
He obviously never does, but is it going to be a kind of... is it going to be an origin story? Of their first meeting and beating? Season's beatings.
I don't know, but these were never the sort of cartoons that appealed to me. But
did you not watch them? What were you watching when you were growing up?
I was watching Disney films and the like. I was never into short cartoons really that much, unless it was sort of,
too childish.
Well, not. I don't want to sound superior and snobbish, but a little bit. Yeah, I just didn't like. I wanted a bit more story to it. I suppose that would be the way of looking at it. So it's something to look out for. Whether it's going to be a shared universe, I'm not really sure. I don't see how that would work.
I think people would like to see them side by side.
I'm sure.
Adventures.
I'm sure Flintstones Jetsons crossovers did happen.
Some kind of time travel.
Yeah.
You can see his boy Elroy making some kind of interdimensional device that then allows them to go back to...
Which one did you prefer if you had to watch one or the other?
Jetsons, which I know is probably controversial, but Jane, his wife, dum, 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 ba-da-da-dum.
Definitely had the catchy theme tune, is what
his boy Elroy, and so on.
And so all the other characters.
All the other favourites.
Was it Mr. Quigley?
He was... Spacely, he was Mr. Sprocket.
Mr. Spacely Sprockets.
Spacely Sprockets.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
And he said he didn't watch it.
You get things through cultural osmosis sometimes. You get a jab for that.
You forgot one very important thing, mate. On the agenda.
You're listening to the Shires and Island Agenda.
Shires and Island on the Shires and Island Network. It's the Shires and Island Agenda, also on hwdhospitalradio.com, where they're about more music variety and we're about movies and more. So, from one cat to more cats. And is Nicole Scherzinger anywhere to be seen?
I don't know, maybe she's got to go to jabs.
And was Leona Lewis?
Yeah,
or Alexandra Burke?
I think it was Leona Lewis.
Oh, was it?
I think so, yeah, but I can definitely remember Nicole Scherzinger was supposed to be starring in was it West End or was it Broadway?
I think it was on Broadway.
Production of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats. She's apparently one of the people that was auditioning, I think, for the film version, but clearly for a different part to Idris Elba, who's apparently in final negotiations to star in Tom Hooper's adaptation of the musical. He's going to be playing McCavity. McCavity is the magical cat.
I see. I have to plead complete ignorance to this. The music I know. I've played, particularly my brass band days, with Skimbleshanks, the railway cat, is one that sticks out. It's a very, very good tune, wonderful melody. Other than that, I don't know too much about it. I know it's based on some poems by some bloke way back when.
T.S. Eliot?
Yeah, perhaps. And that's about it. So what are they doing? Where's it set? What's the story?
It's a group of cats going through, I think it's one night. I'm trying to remember whether one of the cats is a sort of house cat that gets lost and gets introduced to all these other more outrageous city cats, as it were. McCavity is the mystery cat. Apparently, I think, kidnaps a cat at some point. The story is more of an introduction to the cats rather than the cats actually doing anything, to be perfectly honest. It was a collection of poems, and each poem was about a different cat.
So it's an episodic, meet a new character,
yes,
something happens, move along, meet
that's what it is. But I think the whole idea of can they get the kidnapped cat back from McCavity is part of the plot. It's famous, of course, for the part that we were just sort of joking about with Nicole Scherzinger playing Grisabella, the glamour cat, who is the sort of faded star who has
midnight, not a sound on the pavement.
It's like Elaine Page was in the studio.
Has the moon lost its memory? Struggling now.
Okay. Also in negotiations to join the production, Taylor Swift, Jennifer Hudson, Ian McKellen, James Corden, who's on everything, Laurie Davidson, and Metty Towley. McCavity is the villain who kidnaps old Deuteronomy, the Jellicle cat's leader, apparently.
I just don't know what to say, because I've seen play versions, theatre versions that have been filmed, And it just all looks very weird. I mean, the makeup and costumes absolutely fantastic,
Yeah.
but just there's a strange vibe about Cats that I just can't get on board with.
My parents did go and see it when I think it was at the Bradford Alhambra in the 1990s.
It's still there, by the way.
It still is the Bradford Alhambra, yeah. And ironically, neither of my parents especially into cats.
Well, yeah, but I don't think is it a cat lover thing?
Well, it's a whole lot of cats if you don't like them. I'd no mention of whether they're going to actually be in the sort of leotards and makeup applied, or whether it's going to be some sort of CGI.
Oh wow, with them just voicing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not mentioned either way. If Ian McKellen's getting in the spandex, I'm all for it.
Agenda, you fool.
You're listening to the Shires and Ireland Agenda.
We're talking now about the Sean Bean Dead scene, which I think should be the name of a band, really, but it isn't. We're talking about the fact that Sheffield's most famous son,
Yeah, because I can't think of anyone.
Neil Warnock.
Is Jarvis Cocker, was he born and bred in?
I think he was, yeah.
Ah, I see. Might be him.
You think so?
I think it might be him.
Okay. Well, Sean Bean known for many things.
No, it's Sean Bean. It's Sean Bean.
Over the years. But the thing that has become most closely associated with Sean Bean is...
When Saturday Comes, which is actually the greatest film ever made.
Very much so. It's... If you go to see a film that's got Sean Bean in it, how much money do you want on the fact that he's not going to make it out of the film alive?
One does not simply die. Yeah. You can see memes of that everywhere. No, it's become a recurring joke, and it's not always the case, but
a lot of the time it
mathematically, more often than not.
We're all going to get into the maths. We're going to dig deep down into the algorithms.
Bean counting.
No,
nothing?
I liked it.
Thanks. Just acknowledgement. That's what I'm here for.
But are you familiar with the Hitman games? We played music in our previous
Ray Fiennes played the Hitman in a film. Was there not a film version of Hitman?
There were two films, but I don't think Ray Fiennes. It was Timothy Oliphant and the chap from Homeland. I can't remember what he did.
The ginger chap?
No, he played Prince Albert in Young Victoria.
I don't know, for some reason I can just see Ray Fiennes with a bald head shooting people.
Okay.
Different film.
Well, both of those based on a game, a popular game series, the Hitman series, and Sean Bean is going to be playing a part in, I suppose, the cutscenes, and they'll be using his likeness as well in a forthcoming Hitman game. And he isn't actually being the one that is targeted by the Hitman in the game. He is going to be a former MI5 agent, an assassin, who evades capture by faking his own death. So he's going to have faked his own death repeatedly, and I quite liked the idea that they're sort of playing into the Sean
kind
Bean
of satellite dish falling on him at some point.
I don't know. Have you got a favourite Sean Bean death?
No.
You don't?
Well, Alex Trevelyan's the easy one to go to.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings is another easy one to go to.
Yeah.
Does he die in National Treasure?
No, he makes it out of National Treasure alive.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
What about yourself?
If you've mentioned my two favourite ones. There's a Game of Thrones spoiler here, but it's Sean Bean dying, so I mean that's not a huge shock. He does get offed before the end of the first season, which...
Does his brother survive him for a little bit and then...
There are lots of Stark children in there, so you can see what
Just
happens.
Lord of the Rings, isn't it?
It's Lord of the Rings.
But on telly.
But yes, and a little bit more graphic. But why is it certain actors do get offed a lot? Is it they've got something about... I'm wondering, is it the voice? Is that what is Sean Bean's USP? Is it the fact that he has got this sort of Sheffield accent that you can either play it up and he becomes a...
Doesn't mean he has to die, does it?
And he becomes a villainous character, and villains die at the end of films. Or you can play it down slightly, and he becomes a sort of worthy but ultimately tragic character. And that's it. So you're playing one way or the other, and whichever type of archetype he is going for in a film, they're not going to make it out of it alive.
Is it also symptomatic of playing either the main villain or bit parts, in that the main villain, as you say, pretty much has to die, and bit parts, well, it doesn't matter if you live or not. So you might as well kill him.
Okay. If you want to know some mathematical details about...
Death tolls. Give us the death tolls.
Okay. The most killed actor, apparently, in Hollywood film history is Christopher Lee. He died in 60 out of 280 films.
All right.
21.4% chance of surviving.
But are many of those Dracula films?
Well,
Does that count?
Yeah, because in Dracula films, he's dead before the story starts.
Yeah, so it's you count his like his second death, his third death, his fourth death as actual deaths, and I dispute that.
You're having a go. Okay. What about John Hurt at number 2? 45 out of 205.
It's not too bad.
Of course, he got one of the most memorable deaths in cinema history in Alien. So much so that he repeated it in Spaceballs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He actually turned up.
It's been a while. Turned
up. Bela Lugosi, of course, Dracula, and a number of other monstrous characters. 36 out of 116 films he died. Vincent Price.
Can we have that as a percentage?
I haven't got it as a percentage, I'm afraid. Samuel L. Jackson dies an awful lot. 28 out of 176. Of course, he's been killed by...
Power! Unlimited power!
Think about it. Christopher Lee and Samuel L. Jackson died in the same film.
They have?
Yeah. What about that? Charlize Theron. 25 out of 52. Why is Charlize Theron?
That's almost 50%, mass fans.
Why is she the highest placed woman? Why do people like killing Charlize Theron? Sean Bean, by the way, 25 out of 119.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Push his buttons and turn them on. Send from the picture to beat the motor. 900 channels watch paint on the wall. He's the hero who'll save us all. Goggletron, Goggletron, put it on, it's called a Goggletron. Goggletron, Goggletron.
Sent from the future to beat the boredom, Goggletron has risen again, right here on the Shires and Island Network. It's Tom Shires, Mike Island, the Shires and Island Agenda, movies and more. Also streaming, and it is streaming, on hwdhospitalradio.com.
Yes, it is. So tune into HWD Hospital Radio every week to get your fix. If you can't get your fix on other content providers of a YouTube variety.
Dracula?
Let's talk about Dracula, because the BBC and Netflix are sinking their fans into a new production.
Did you write that line?
I did, out of the legendary Transylvanian Count. It's a co-production between the two from the team behind Sherlock. I think it had been announced a while ago, but the fact that Netflix were involved hadn't been announced, and we've got a few more details anyway. It's going to be a period piece. As I say, it's Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat that are working on it. And it's going to be shown on the BBC in this country, Netflix internationally.
Our team Sherlock's a bit of a loose end. It's kind of let's take on another classic character, because it seems like the perfect kind of formula for success, because we know there was Sherlock. They haven't done too much period stuff there, but when they have, I think it's been pretty good. You might dispute that.
Of course, behind Doctor Who as well. So they've got experience producing period drama in a Doctor Who setting.
How excited are you?
I'm excited by it. I like the fact that it is definitely going to be a period piece. I think that's the way to go. However, I don't know how... At the moment, it's been confirmed 3 90-minute instalments. I'm wondering, is that going to tell the whole story? Or are they looking already to the fact we're going to do further series down the line? Because unlike Sherlock Holmes, there is only one extant Dracula work. So if they take it any further than that, it will be very much...
Could they then transplant it through time, maybe in future instalments, perhaps?
They could, but again, you're
might kill it off.
You're moving further away from the original piece, and to their credit on Sherlock, they took inspiration from various Sherlock stories for each individual episode. So it would be nice if they did something similar for Dracula. But there have been so many attempts to reboot Dracula over the years, to bring him back from the grave.
Some of them untold.
So some of them very much untold. The last TV one was Jonathan Rhys-Meyers starring as Dracula for an NBC production back in 2013. And also, do you remember Penny Dreadful? That was on
yes.
Sky, which was sort of... it was almost a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen mashup, where they took lots of different fictional characters from 19th century Penny Dreadful novels and put them together. And I don't think Dracula appeared, but characters from Dracula did feature in that. Is the fact that it's going to be a period piece actually, well, it's interesting for them because they did make Sherlock contemporary. Given that we've had lots of period Dracula works, is that going to be distinctive enough?
Yeah, well, the team behind it, I think, is actually the selling point, which is ironic because you have arguably one of the greatest literary characters that
Most famous,
there is.
Certainly,
yeah. But you have the Sherlock audience, you've got the Doctor Who audience, you've got the kind of League of Gentlemen audience. Any ideas on casting?
No, not yet. The quote from Moffat and Gatiss as regards the general ethos of the show is there have always been stories about great evil. What's special about Dracula is that Bram Stoker gave evil its own hero. Now, of course, in the book, it's told in the form of letters, journal entries, diaries. There's a newspaper article at one point as well. What makes it mysterious is the fact that none of it is from Dracula's point of view, and we never really know what Dracula's ultimate end game was. He was coming from Transylvania to London. Was it because he got some master plan to take over the world, or was it because he just thought there's more people there, easier access? So are they going to make it Dracula focused, and Dracula is going to be the protagonist of the piece? I'm not really sure how that works.
Or is it going to be the typical, you've got a journalist who's, going to London looking for a big story, stumbles across undead Count. Or dead. Is he dead or undead? He's dead, then becomes undead because he's technically pseudo-living.
No, I think he's undead. I think he's technically undead. And I'm looking forward to it. No confirmation as when it's going to air, but I would expect within the next 18 months, maybe, something like that. We'll have to wait and see.
Mike Island's in the stream as usual on More Music Variety, HWD, Hospital Radio, and on YouTube on the Shires and Island Network. You're listening to the Shires and Island Agenda.
I've got my waders on, everybody, because I'm in the stream.
Now, would you call them armbands or water wings?
Armbands?
Yeah.
Who calls them water wings?
The Americans.
Okay. The last time I went swimming was a very long time, and I'd just like to clarify that it was a very long time before that, the last time that I had to wear armbands.
In the same way they're called stabilisers, training wheels.
Do they?
Yeah.
Not familiar with that term.
Netflix
added nearly 7 million new customers in the 3 months up to 20 September, that is in 2018 of course, bringing its total to more than 137 million members worldwide. That was a higher level of growth than apparently the company expected.
And how have they done that? Has there been some kind of special offer, or is a new tier system?
I don't know whether any of those are being attributed to why it's been so successful. They have really put a huge amount of emphasis on the original content that they are making, spending a huge amount of money, and maybe that is why people are getting bored, because they realise, well, there's no other place to get this. Because when Netflix first launched, this is the world's best back catalogue of stuff, whereas now this is the world's best back catalogue of stuff, and the stuff that you're never going to get anywhere else.
All right, without turning this into kind of business analysis, is that, of the number that they've increased by, are they paid subscribers?
That's a good question.
Or does that include people taking out their 33 days? Do they count that? Because I know, for example, my other streaming network of choice, WWE Network, big fan of wrestling, unashamedly so, when they declare their subscribers in their quarterly kind of announcements, they do include, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, people who are on a free trial.
Okay.
So there's no guarantee that you're going to have that same number next time out. But surely it's fraud of sorts, isn't it, to do it the other way?
That's surely doing it just to boost your reputation, which should in turn boost your share value and the like. It's not.
But it creates a false economy, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So I don't know. All I can say is that subscriber growth is something that Netflix are dealing with. They said that they expect to grow about 5 million members in the next quarter. The actual total, which includes about 1 million new subscribers in the US, almost 5.9 million abroad, so new subscribers, yes, clearly, set a record for the third quarter of a year. So,
are they actually worldwide? Are there any territories that they're not in?
I'm not sure.
Can I go to China and have Netflix, for example?
I'm not sure about that, but it's different rights in different countries, isn't it? So there are certain shows you can watch if you're
annoyingly
watching
so as well.
If you're watching
yeah.
Netflix in one country to ones you can watch in another. Is this just the way that it is going to go now? I mean, look, they're spending £8 billion a year on content. Eventually, people are going to have to cotton on to the fact that this is the only place you're going to go to watch this stuff. Are you prepared for everyone to join Netflix, or are people just going to have to go, well, no, I don't care how much my new favourite spin-off from a film is. I'm not prepared to spend that much money just to get one new programme.
We had the conversation previously on a previous show talking about Sky and brokering their deal with Netflix, so that it's now integrated effectively for Sky Q customers. Other actual physical TV services are available. But I think two things come out of this. Number one, that content is king. Mm-hmm. And I think number two, that the future of television is no television.
You think that's the way it's going?
Yeah.
So what are we going to call it?
It's still, well, I think it'll still be referred to as television because we're assuming, I don't know, you'd have to get the stats. Are most people watching it on there, or is it devicing?
Devicing.
Because it's not phoning, is it? But screening?
Okay,
screening?
We talked a couple of weeks ago again about choose your own TV ending, and where you can basically pick your own plot line and the like for shows. How interesting, format-wise, structure-wise, do you think things can go with Netflix? Because, I mean, could you have shows where one week you're watching half hour, not 1 week, one episode could be half an hour long, the next episode could be an hour and a half long, in the same way as chapters in a book? No two chapters are exactly the same length. Why should it have to be an hour long?
They don't have an actual channel, do they? In the sense of, going back against the BBC Network, they have a live stream. So you could effectively, the same way that you can just put BBC One on, you could put WWE Network on and watch what's going on live now. But then you can also then choose your own and do on demand. So Netflix don't do that, and I think it's brilliant creatively that you are not pinned down to it's going to be 42 minutes or it's going to be 22 minutes or it's got to be 57 minutes or whatever it is, because that's the nature of storytelling, isn't it? That if it needs 2 episodes, then great. If it doesn't, and I think ultimately quality will then be higher because we're not having to spread this out over numerous episodes as well, and people will continue to pay for that.
But again, going back to something we said before, can it generate water cooler moments in the way that live
I know people who
television
still
can?
have conversations about, but what's interesting, and I can even quote the conversation, someone came into the office and said to another colleague, have you seen, are you up to date with Better Call Saul, the Breaking Bad spin-off that's on Netflix? And the colleague said, oh no, I think I've still got a couple to watch. So you're right, the conversations still happen, but they might very quickly stop, depending on where you're at in the series.
And before, word of mouth was a big deal in terms of getting people to watch programmes. Do you automatically lose that, or has it become sort of social media word of mouth? But it takes a lot of people to generate that, and they haven't got the prompt to generate that if it's not, that was what was on last night, or what is being shown at the moment, if it's something that you found from 5 or 6 years ago, I suppose.
Absolutely. I made a glib comment a few weeks back saying that the licence fee was effectively a monthly subscription to the BBC. How much longer do you think that model can continue? Because they can broker these deals with Netflix and create this content, but doesn't there come a point where we have to kind of cut that loss and say, you know what, BBC, start showing adverts?
I don't know. I wonder whether could the BBC justify it if they cut programmes that weren't sort of broadcast that only public service broadcasters can do, i.e. we're going to provide the best news content in the world, we're going to provide the best, weather in the world, we're going to provide some sport, and that's it, drama or anything else like that, we're going to leave to subscription channels. That way you could justify having a licence fee because that is stuff that a subscription channel is never going to do a live news, I would have thought.
I just don't know how it works. For example, I pay the licence fee. That enables the BBC to create content that they sell to various overseas markets, and then what do they do with the money that they make? Does it just go back into creating more content?
That goes back into creating more content. It's interesting. I can talk again from someone who watches Doctor Who and follows what happens behind the scenes. Doctor Who is the biggest earner for the BBC since Top Gear went. But it's not the case that the money that Doctor Who generates goes back into the Doctor Who production.
Different budgets. They always say that, don't they? Different budgets.
Yeah. So, I don't know, the BBC's going to have to come up with some sort of solution, as are other terrestrial channels, because it's going to be eating into the market for ITV and all the other producers, and Sky you mentioned as well. But it's just that the BBC is probably going to be hit hardest.
I have to pray ignorance? Play ignorance? Feign ignorance? No, not feign ignorance. I have to...
Plead.
Plead, that's the one.
I have to pray ignorance. Please, ignorance, please.
I have to plead ignorance with this next character. I'm roughly aware of who they are, and some mystical, magical abilities, as well as a rather large bank account. And that's pretty much where my knowledge of Iron Fist starts and stops. But talking of stopping...
Emphasis on stopping, yeah.
They've dumped it.
Yes, Netflix have dropped the immortal, ironically named, Iron Fist. First Marvel show produced by Netflix to be dropped. It's told the story of the billionaire Danny Rand, orphan billionaire who travels
billionaire
who travels the world and learns extraordinary martial arts skills, albeit with
Dr. Batman?
mystical powers. It's Dr.
Strange Bat.
Very good. Did you create the Amalgam universe? The first season came out a couple of years ago, wasn't very well received at all. Second season just came out and better received. In between that, he appeared in the Defenders miniseries that also aired on Netflix. Does this sort of show that Marvel aren't bulletproof?
Oh, invincible. They're mighty, but they still can be defeated. But then again, some of their film projects have left a little bit to desired. So it's kind of like the Beatles. Everyone needs their magical mystery tour.
They really do, and Iron Flicks. I first took him to, I think it was Kunlun, the name of the mystical city that he visited in Asia.
So why did he go there?
I
just trying to discover himself.
I think it very much was a case of he was a guy in a gap year, and actually the casting of Finn Jones, who is a British actor. Did raise some questions at the time, because the character was created in the 1970s, which is sort of at the time of the height of the kung fu films breaking through into the United States, and also the height of the blaxploitation genre. So it was a sort of mix of both, but it also brought in the whole white saviour aspect, the idea of you get a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant American going over to the Middle East, and he becomes the iconic hero who can do everything and save the world in the way that the people that already live there can't. And that wasn't especially an issue at the time in comics publishing that do that. However, when they were making the Netflix series, there was a sizable body of opinion, including fans of the comic, that said, why don't we make Danny Rand a Korean American or a Chinese American?
Culturally makes sense,
yes,
doesn't it?
Who goes back to the East to connect with his roots. And you thought, well, actually, that really does make an awful lot of dramatic sense. There's areas to explore that would be really interesting there. But they decided to stay true to the comics and did get a bit of a backlash.
Is there talk of an MCU appearance? I've heard rumblings of maybe appearing as if the cancellation won't affect that, but...
Well, the one thing that a lot of people have touted is that in the comics, Iron Fist isn't a character like Spider-Man or Batman or Superman, where the comic has run and run and run, has never stopped being published. It's a character that has been and gone sometimes. And in the times that an Iron Fist comic hasn't been published, he has appeared in other comics, particularly with Luke Cage. Heroes for Hire was their famous comic, which is all about a pair of superheroes who basically put themselves up for auction like the A-Team. And because Luke Cage has been such a success, there's a lot of talk that maybe they'll just move him over and he'll be the supporting character in that. Also, a couple of the supporting characters in Iron Fist have been much better received than the central character, and there's talk about them being stars in their own spin-off as well. So watch this space.
It's round, it's purple, it shows you what you view. It's Mike's Big W.
It's actually pink at the minute, not purple, as the little song tells us.
Okay. It's orange.
It's gone orange.
It's gone orange, okay.
Keep track, folks. Keep up.
So then,
Review film of the week.
this is when we go through the films that are coming out in the next 7 days to pick out the ones that you should perhaps pay some attention to. And we're starting off on Saturday evening at 25 to 9 on Channel 5. It's
Channel 5.
It is one of the great 1980s friendship films starring Bette Midler and Barbara Hershey as a pair of unlikely friends, and it tracks their relationship over the years. I think I'm right in saying there's a bit of a bittersweet ending.
What's the film called?
Beaches. Is it Wind Beneath My Wings that was the
Yes, I think
song
it is.
for that one? So yeah, you'll have definitely heard the song.
It's definitely downbeat, isn't it?
If you haven't seen the film. Yeah.
Song and movie.
Very different on Sunday at 9 o'clock on ITV4.
ITV4 is channel number. It's 14.
24.
Oh, only 10 off.
Paul Verhoeven, it's a double bill actually of Paul Verhoeven films on ITV4.
24?
Yeah, well,
yes. Memory.
On Sunday night, but the first one is
Not a sound on the pavement. Sorry, go on.
Is RoboCop, which of course is Paul Weller as the police officer.
Is he called Paul Weller?
It's Paul. It's not. I put Paul Weller. It's not Paul Weller.
You mean something to me. You have 60 seconds to comply.
Who stars?
He's going underground anyway.
Who stars as the police officer who's turned into a cyborg by, is it a private company that are working with
How
the
do they
police
buy his
force?
bits?
Well, this is the thing. I've never seen RoboCop, but the reason I wanted to ask you about it is because you strike me as the sort of person who might have done.
I have, and I've seen the remake as well, which isn't that bad.
Okay. Why is it that it was a film that had huge appeal for children? Because I didn't see the film, but not only did I have an action figure, I can remember going to church on Christmas Day when I was about 5, and I took a RoboCop action figure car, one of those that fits action figures in, and was driving it up and down the pews.
Was there an animated series? I seem to have a vague memory that there was. But it's kind of like, we were talking the other week about the end of term, you bring your toy in, and Richie Townend brings in Arnie, the Terminator, and he might have seen it, but by all rights he shouldn't have done, because there were 15s and 18 RoboCop. I think it's pretty much an 18, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So I think
it's got satire in it, so there's bits that I like about it. Still, the satire is quite...
I think it's one of those things where the toy pretty much sold itself because it had to. It's cool robot guy with visory helmet and big gun that comes out of his leg. Battle damage?
I think it possibly was.
Mine definitely had battle damage.
Yeah, but which way around do you think it was? Do you think it was they realised after they'd made the film there could be a children's market for this? Or do you think it was before they made the film that this is a film that's going to appeal to children, let's have the toys in just in case?
Yeah, but I think also what might have happened, there was a successful series of video games that accompanied the films, so it might well have been through that route. But I can see a cartoon RoboCop in my mind, which means it must have happened.
Okay.
Just like everything else.
As I said, it was a double bill of Paul Verhoeven movies on Sunday night on ITV4.
24.
The second one is Total Recall, which certainly hasn't got action figures and wasn't...
They'd be good though, wouldn't they, with the heads?
Okay.
That spinning head thing going off.
So yeah, RoboCop at 9, Total Recall at 11:10 on that channel. Moving
24.
Moving on to Sunday night at 11:30, so it's a very different sort of option you've got for you on Sunday evening. 10 Rillington Place with Richard Attenborough, John Hurt and Judy Geeson as... Richard Attenborough playing the serial killer John Christie in the 1940s and 50s, who murdered a series of women and was, to all intents and purposes, a very ordinary sort of man, let's put it that way. There was a TV adaptation of the story back in 2016 starring Tim Roth, but in both cases Richard Attenborough and Tim Roth regarded as turning in excellent performances, so you can see Attenborough's on Sunday night at 11:30. Staying with films that certainly wouldn't have children's toys aimed at them, Taxi Driver, Martin Scorsese directing Robert De Niro.
Well, you could have the cars.
You could have the cars, yeah. The cars,
remote control,
cars
pull back.
Right. But
action figure one
of the most quotable of Martin Scorsese's team-ups with Robert De Niro.
I know the same colleague who came in asking of Better Call Saul, of the other colleague, once came in and decided on his phone that he was going to play aloud the YouTube clip of the famous speech. I think it lasted all of about 5 or 6 seconds before the air was turned blue and it was all over.
So if you want to turn the air blue, Sony Movie Channel.
Channel number 32.
Correct.
Oh, get in.
11.
Back of the net.
11:30 on Wednesday. I will also just quickly mention that if you're into fast cars on Wednesday night, Furious 7, funnily enough, the 7th instalment of the Fast and Furious series.
So it's Furious 7. Is it Fate of the Furious? Is that the 8th one?
I think that's the 8th one, yeah.
Yeah.
Furious 7 is Jason Statham playing the brother of Luke Evans' character, who was the villain in the previous one.
Yes.
And he's trying to get his revenge. There's a new...
Hobbs and Thingamybobs. What's his name? Hobbs and Thingamybobs.
Hobson's Choice.
Hobbs and... what's he called? It's
Hobbs.
Luke Hobbs. Luke Hobbs?
I'm not sure about Luke. We're trying to...
what's it called?
Idris Elba is starring opposite Dwayne Johnson in it, but I'm just trying to find out what the title of...
It's Hobbs and something. It's the characters' names.
Hobbs and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw, that's it.
So is that the first time he's appeared in the... Idris Elba hasn't been in any of the Furious films?
No, yeah.
Okay.
Is he playing a cat in this one as well?
It'd be good if he was.
Shared universe.
Is it supposed to be like Tango and Cash? Hobbs and Shaw?
Well, no, they're both human.
Yeah, no, Tango and Cash are both.
I'm thinking of Turner and Hooch. Different film.
Shared universe. Very much so. That's on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Speed also on Wednesday at 11:25 p.m. So good back-to-back films if you like your car chases. I would have to say I think Speed's probably better than any of the Fast and Furious films.
Absolutely.
One of the best Die Hard on a Bus it was lampooned as, but I don't think it's quite as good as Die Hard, but not much is.
Say Keanu Reeves does a serviceable job. Dennis Hopper's a great villain, and you've got Speed, Sandra Bullock.
Okay.
End of conversation.
Why is it zombies are so popular, and is 28 Days Later the film that kicked off the modern fascination?
I think so. Does it predate Shaun of the Dead?
2002. So yeah.
By quite a way. I just think it did it well. If you like that kind of blood and guts type stuff.
Also, was that the one that really pioneered the idea of zombies could be fast as well as slow?
I'm trying to think. I've definitely seen it, but only once. Okay. And there's a 28 weeks.
Yes, 28 days, 28 weeks, and I think there was talk about a third one, but I don't think that was going to be 28 years later. I'm not entirely
months.
Sure. Maybe months. On the Horror Channel,
number 77.
70.
Ooh, close.
10:45 on Saturday, and a penultimate one, Princess of Mars. Now, if you remember, John Carter came out back, it was at 2012.
Or was it even...
It was 2012, 2013.
Might even be slightly earlier than that, but... Michael Giacchino, great score. Everything else, forget about it.
I think it's a film that isn't very good, but you can see the ambition, you can see the what they wanted to do, what they were trying to do, and I'm just disappointed that it didn't come off.
If you mute it, it's almost watchable.
Well, a couple... you just said the Michael Giacchino scores.
Right, no. So
if you can get the tracks and take the voices
listen to the soundtrack in isolation, that's fantastic. You can't argue with it. If you're going to sit and watch the film, do the George Lucas thing of the dialogue doesn't matter, just look at the pretty pictures.
Okay, well, the reason we're talking about it is because back in 2009, Princess of Mars was produced by a production company called The Asylum, which I think is a guarantee of quality, it was a low-budget, modern reworking of the Edgar Rice Burroughs' incredibly influential science fantasy story. And, it stars Tracy Lords as the title character.
Who?
We can't talk about Tracy Lords at this time of day.
But you don't know what time of day it is.
Yeah, but we have to assume.
This could be, right now, this could be any time of day. You go for it, Mike Garland. Let's see if it makes the cut.
No, I really cannot.
Ireland.
But our preview film of the week...
I'm not letting this go.
Ireland. Film of the week is on Sunday. Channel 5. It's 5 to 5 in the evening. Would you say 5 to 5 in the evening or 5 to 5 in the afternoon?
I don't know. Once it gets to 5, it's the evening. So technically, when it's 5 to 5, it's still the afternoon.
Okay, it's the Goonies.
Ireland. Hey, you guys.
Richard Donner directs one of the attempts to make Indiana Jones for kids, and probably
I think it's more grown up than Indiana Jones.
The only successful one.
Yeah, I think it's almost grittier than Indiana Jones. There are moments in there that quite downright scary.
Yes.
And
There are certain moments.
it's not a clean-cut kids' film by any stretch of the imagination.
There are certain moments in there that are very 80s. What's the name of the kid that is very much influenced by James Bond?
Isn't he called like IQ?
And who is
I think
actually
it's a short round, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't he called like IQ or is it some kind of...
With all the gadgets, I don't think you would get that in a film these days. There'd have to be some explanation of where the gadgets came from.
Yeah, he'd be more like a tech whiz, wouldn't he, with
Yes.
his smartphone.
Constant talk of a follow-up film. Whether they can get Thanos back, I'm not sure.
Ireland, 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 Ireland. Welcome back. You've played a roller blinder all night, Mike. Are you ready for the final round?
Ireland, Ireland, Ireland.
For tonight's grand prize, a bootleg VHS copy of Supersport 2, The Umpire Strikes Back. Your category is Rodent Hijack, aka Steamboat Willie. I have created real-life summaries of Walt Disney classics. All you have to do is give me the title of the film. There are bonus points for bursts of song from the movie, and this round may contain spoilers, which I actually haven't said for a couple of weeks, so I must stick to the script. It's called that, but I've not said it. The round also ends at melody time. Are you ready to begin?
I'm ready to.
Begin! Untrained pilot flies self and friends into star.
Peter Pan?
Catfight.
Aristocats?
Meaner.
Aristocats!
No. More murderous.
The Lion King. I've broken it.
Home invader befriends victims.
Oliver and Company? It would fit Oliver and Company. Home Invader.
She goes into the house.
Mary Poppins.
No, Walt Disney classics. I
Okay.
think it counts. She goes in and makes herself at home and tidies up, and then they come back from work.
I'm really not getting. What sort of era are we talking?
The first one.
It's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Intern misuses company property.
It was an intern in a Disney film. This is company property. I'm not. Sword in the Stone.
No! Not that pointy hat and stick.
Oh, it's Sorcerer's Apprentice.
What's the film called?
Magician's Apprentice. Fantasia.
Child, technically detained and raised by beasts.
The Jungle Book.
Oh, you could have had Tarzan and accepted both.
Okay. Not classic, is it?
I think it probably is.
It came out in 2000.
Well, it depends, because technically the classics only pertains to certain ones between certain things, but they still have the number on, so Disney Classic number 40, whatever it is, maybe 30 something. Comatose girl finds man of her dreams.
Sleeping Beauty.
Stockholm Syndrome wins.
Beauty and the Beast.
Jacked up kids smash.
Big Hero 6.
Oh no, it would count, but no, he's not jacked up, is he?
He's got.
Baymax is blown up, but he's not jacked up.
Jacked up.
Think about a muscly guy who keeps knocking stuff over, people don't like him, oh, you'll never amount to anything, I'm going to go off and be a hero!
Hercules.
Teenage...
Kids.
He's jacked up, you know, like muscles. Yeah, he's buff. Teenager undergoes species change to live life.
Princess and the Frog.
I don't think the prince is a... Is she a teenager?
I don't know.
But it's not to live life, is it?
Little Mermaid.
You've got the answer right, just be quiet. Fashionista's material choice proves unpopular.
Cinderella? Oh no, 101 Dalmatians.
Girl just wants to fight war. Bewitched doll breaks free.
That's the Pocahontas. Pinocchio.
Delusional dog finds hero within.
Homeward Bound?
Disney classic?
It is a classic.
It doesn't have a number.
It does not know. Delusional dog. Bolt.
Closeted childhood causes cataclysmic chill.
Cataclysmic chill. Frozen.
Modern mastodon gets mashed.
Is it the last dinosaur, the little dinosaur? Something with a dinosaur?
Modern mastodon gets mashed.
Gets smashed.
Mashed.
But mashed gets mashed.
What's a modern mastodon?
Dinosaur, a bird.
What's a mastodon?
It's a dinosaur, isn't
But what kind of prehistoric creature is it?
it? Dinosaur.
What's it?
A lizard.
It's not.
Why
don't you know this?
It's a mammoth. It's a mammoth, isn't it? It's Dumbo. Modern mammoth.
I was going to say you're not, but you are. But you're still a winner.
So, big release of the last week was Damien Chazelle's First Man, telling the story of Neil Armstrong, and the mission to the moon took place 49 years ago. Next year is the 50th anniversary.
Just say 1969.
1969, yeah.
Don't do the maths. Just do it that way around. And obviously, we were talking on WhatsApp. Other messaging services are available, and I said Oscar bait because if there's such a thing as something that's put together to tempt the Academy, First Man is it, isn't it?
Yes.
Because not only is it the story of a real person who did something absolutely extraordinary, but it's a very American tale. Or so you think, because huge criticism levelled at the film that it doesn't even show the planting of the flag.
Yes.
And that has caused huge hoo-ha in the States.
At the same time as it's got criticism for that from, we don't really want to get into the politics too much, but from the American right, if you want to call it that, the conservative right in the United States. Also been some criticism from the left of American politics, with the idea that it's a film that focuses exclusively on white male men who are sort of Boy Scout, clean-cut types in the 1950s, and it's all about their heroism as much as anything else. So it's sort of getting it from both sides. Didn't make a particularly large amount of money, only came in at number 3 after The Star is Born and Venom in the box office over in the United States. Is this indicative of the fact that the American movie market isn't going to, isn't going to warmly receive films like this anymore? And that it's a film that has got artistic ambition, because Damien Chazelle, is a director whose first 2 films, Whiplash and La La Land, incredibly highly acclaimed. But now he's going to something.
Whiplash about the drummer?
Yes, with Mr. Fantastic. He's going for Damien Chazelle here for something that is, as I say, sort of art house independent style, but has got the big budget of a Hollywood film, of a top end Hollywood film. And I sort of think it is the only filmmaker that really does this these days, Christopher Nolan. I mean, Spielberg and Scorsese do, but they've been established for years and years. Christopher Nolan's the sort of last one to make a breakthrough and to say, I can do these big films that are also about big ideas and make a lot of money at the same time.
Yeah, could you not imagine someone like a Ridley Scott maybe pulling off something? It's kind of like, it's not quite The Martian, but I reckon he'd have a good go. But I just think, is America in a place right now, and like I say, we're trying not to get into the politics of it, whereby it's not kind of like, America, like, it's a country with an awful lot that's going off. Yes. So the kind of reception of the film is no surprise, is it? Yeah,
I think that's probably fair to say. The fact that some critics, even though, as I say, it's been lauded by the critics, some have talked about it being quite remote and quite cold, and because Neil Armstrong's character is presented as being very controlled, he can be a character that's quite difficult to warm to and connect with, even though there are crucial scenes and sequences in the film that really just focus on his face and his reaction to what is happening to him, rather than the extraordinary vistas that he's seeing. At the same time, it's also worth pointing out that Claire Foy, who plays Neil Armstrong's wife, does have a very prominent role in the film. So in terms of female representation, it is actually much better than you perhaps think going into the movie. But is there just an even more fundamental problem in that
it's October?
Well, October has actually been surprised this year. It's been massively up the figures on movie-going in the United States for this year compared to years gone by. No one expected Venom to do anything like as well as it's done. But is it actually the very idea of going to the moon now, even though it is the greatest achievement in the whole history of humanity, is a bit blasé. That once we've done it,
Move on.
we've done it, and film or space in film has sort of been taken over by
Much more fantastical
yes,
adventures, yeah.
either incredibly sci-fi ones like Interstellar, say, or it's your sort of your sort of space fantasy ones like Star Wars
Or Infinity War that does
Yes.
does cross the stars, yeah.
So, is it that those sorts of films are what people associate with space films now? Well, I mean, the tagline, I've got it here for First Man: experience the impossible journey to the moon. Well, we know it's not an impossible journey because you've done it. It's not a very good tagline, but does that sort of hit upon the problem that if going to the moon is the impossible journey, and when you get there, it's basically monochrome rocks? What's exciting about it when you've seen Thanos on another planet, when you've seen Interstellar take you to other dimensions and time travel and the like?
I suppose the only way to sell it would be to have the Neil Armstrong character be so absolutely either lovable or involving that experiencing it through his eyes is the thrill. So the moon itself isn't the thrill, because like you say, it's just this kind of dusty white thing. But if he's not likeable...
But I was about to say, if the problem then becomes, well, how much do you distort history to make him like that? You know, the people that were sent up on rockets had to be people whose heads were screwed on. You know,
serious business, isn't it?
It had to be really sure of what they were doing and why they were doing it and know what they were doing. You know, the other ones, films that you sort of think of that have tried to be about astronauts, have taken it that way to make them fun. You're thinking sort of, Deep Impact, Space Cowboys, Armageddon. You know, these are films that are supposed to be about ordinary humans, but they're clearly larger than life characters. So I don't know whether it's simply the case there isn't a market for this sort of film anymore.
Yeah, because Apollo 13 works, didn't
Yes,
it?
Apollo 13 worked. That was because something was going wrong. So you got the human interest story, something going wrong. This is about how do we get it to go right.
You're listening to the Shires and Ireland Agenda. This is the agenda. Big, isn't it?
We said goodbye hurriedly last week.
I noticed
So
that, yeah.
I think
We're
we should take a bit more
goodbye.
time.
Okay. What are you planning on doing when we're finished?
I'm going to go home and edit this show.
Okay, that's something to look forward to.
What are you going to do?
That's something to look forward
Get
to.
tea?
I haven't had anything to eat yet, so that's going to be nice.
The cold meat night.
I'm not sure what it's going to be tonight. We'll find out when I sit down to my meal.
I've been Tom Shires.
I've been Mike Ireland.
Take care. It's right now.
Have your tea.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.